The music never works, unfortunately. Need to figure out how to get the music on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ladies of Sosa podcast. My name is Sara.
And my name is Christine.
Today, we have a special episode for you guys. And this is going to be kind of a response or a part two of our most recent episode, in which we discussed the current turmoil in South Sudan. But before we get there, we want to introduce our panel. And I guess I'm going to like start the introduction first and then go ahead and introduce our panelists. And so, first and foremost, we're going to be South Sudan is at a critical juncture right now, and armed clashes erupt between rival factions. Most recently in Upper Nile and Unity states, peace talks hang in the balance, and civilians continue to suffer. How did we get here, and what role should the diaspora play in navigating this moment with clarity, courage, and responsibility? So, in this special live episode, we're going to be speaking to Scenario, who is a journalist who's based in Kenya, and then also Nayan Kwang, who challenged our last episode's framing and brings a more critical lens to how we could pretty much create dialogue when in the midst of sensitivity or political instability and violence in South Sudan without losing our sense of unity. So, without further ado, I'm going to let Christine go ahead and introduce our panelists and bring them on stage.
All right, I'm muted, but let me go ahead and get them.
Let's add Sarah on stage. Oh, Sarah's on stage. Beautiful. So we'll go ahead and let you guys introduce yourself. I know I call you Sarah, so I'm sorry if I interchangeably say Nyayan or Sarah, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, guys, my name is Nyayan Kong. I was born in South Sudan. I am Nuer. My mother is from Adogalbar. My dad is from Mayendit. I'm deeply proud of where I come from, and I want to start by making something very clear. Being proud of where your tribe does not mean that you hate anyone else. All 64 tribes in South Sudan were placed there for a reason. Each tribe contributes something very important, and South Sudan would not be South Sudan without one single one of them. So don't let anybody make you feel ashamed or of where you come from. We must stop equating tribal pride to hate, because that's a dangerous narrative, and one that has been used to divide us for a very long time. So that's just a small introduction of myself, and hopefully we get to do some things today. And today, I'm not just speaking for Nuer people, but for South Sudan as a whole. And I want to express my concern about the podcast episode in question and sense what it sends, and because it's not only misleading, it could be dangerous. And I'm sure like that's not the intention that you guys were trying to do with that. And that's why I spoke on it, because many might have felt the same way that I did about it. So I just hope that we can clear that and create a healthy dialogue so you guys' platform can do it's just for everybody else. But thanks for having me today, and I am looking forward to a very healthy discussion.
Awesome, thank you. And then Scenario, we'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Hey guys, I kind of lost sound for a second. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. Hi everybody. I am Scenario. I am a Sudanese, South Sudanese writer, journalist, poet. That's pretty much it. And I believe in truth before anything, regardless of where it is you come from. Just truth. Truth is truth. It doesn't change regardless of whether you're Nuer, Dinka, Shilluk, Equatorian, whoever you are. Truth is just truth. And I also don't believe in suppressing truth for the sake of quote unquote peace. That's not a peace. If a peace is not based on truth, then it just isn't anything really. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave it there. Sorry, you're on mute. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta get used to that. So, Scenario, you being a journalist based in Nairobi, are you able to give us a little bit of your background as far as, what you're like, who you work for, the stories that you want to tell, and also kind of maybe do like a brief like breakdown of the current tensions and how it started back in South Sudan, the recent one.
All right, sure thing. So I work with African Stream. We're a pan-African media platform. We do all stories revolving around Africa and the African diaspora. Yeah, that's what I do. In terms of South Sudan current, I don't like to call it tensions because tensions makes it seem very evened up, and that's not really what it is. And I think if we're really going to call South Sudan what it actually is, it is a genocide that's currently ongoing, because a genocide doesn't matter if it's one person, 200 people, 100 people. That's really what's going on, in my personal opinion. In terms of how we got here at the moment, obviously it's always just stories. Everybody has their different side of the story and what narrative and what happened and what, led to this. However, from reports that are out there, what happened was that the White Army surrounded a South Sudan Defense Forces base, led to the killing of a general, and then the South Sudanese army the South Sudanese government decided, now we've lost a general, now we're going to go on revenge attacks, and decided to attack whole villages of civilians. I don't know if that covers it.
I think it covers a portion of it, because I think what is being missed out of that is a part of what happened. But the general that was killed, rest in peace to him, it shouldn't have happened that way. But the people that he was supposed to be protecting were feeling not protected. There was a lot of rapes of women and children being abused by people that were under his command. And the White Army have been pleading for South Sudan government to have him replaced, so that they don't have to feel the need to protect these women and children themselves. So it's an unfortunate event that led to a very great loss, but the intention was not. And I think the first lady, first vice president, Angelina, stated that he died among his people. But I feel like the story that led to that is being missed out on. There are so many people that we're supposed to be protecting, but those were just marginalized as well. And I feel like the White Army decided to take action to their own hands, since they've been begging the government for 3 years to have somebody else that actually cared about the civilians, so that these women were not consistently being raped. There wasn't cattle stealing, land grabbing that was happening under that general. But unfortunately, that's a loss to someone's family. Rest in peace to him. But there's pieces that should be highlighted that led to that as well.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation, because you, since you're speaking now, like we can go ahead and get into your critique of our most recent episode. From what I gathered, so you made a Instagram video where you did address the entire episode, and you were very critical about our approach to the episode, things that you believe were left, like we're missing. And then also, I think there was a conversation surrounding the Nuer perspective being missing in that conversation. And I just go ahead, I guess I'll give you the floor to further expound on what your issue was with our most recent episode.
Honestly, I think that conversation could have had been like factual in the fact that it didn't need to necessarily be a newer person in the conversation for the message to get across. And I think a part of it that really triggered me, Christine, that was your part, where the conversation, you kind of said defend or whatever, and led to this is honestly a joke. That's where I get triggered, because I'm like, okay, at first I was going to give it the benefit of doubt. You guys have to be, I'm giving you the benefit of doubt that you guys have to be impartial. But also that clip, I was like, okay, maybe it's just clickbait. So I went and watched the full set, and I feel like it didn't clear anything up for me. And that's where like my reaction came from, because there's no part of this that is a joke at all. And I've seen you guys, I would say, do research on all the conversations that you normally have, like that I think you guys think are important. And I feel like the 20-minute of that conversation to your land, your people, deserved more research. And I generally, with what coming in today, I'm like, okay, maybe they just weren't prepared. But it really affected me in a very emotional way. Like when I opened it, and it's like the first thing I saw, and I watching it, and I immediately did get to my Instagram stories and address that, because it was really something that, like, it pulled a lot of emotion out of me. So I was like, calm down. I did my work and I went and watched the full clip again. And I felt like that didn't clear up anything. So Christine, from that clip and the whole video, I just want to be clear on what you thought I misunderstood.
Honestly, I was confused when I watched the video initially because I feel like you were triggered by my comment of it being a joke or me saying defend or whatever. But for it to be correlated to me being disinterested in the topic, or for me to feel like I don't want to be there, didn't want to be a part of the conversation, I just feel like it was misinterpreted. I think that when I said it was a joke, I was referring to the government as a whole and the way that they were handling the issues, and for them to bring the Ugandan army over. That's what I was referring to as a joke. So I think my demeanor was just me being frustrated as a whole with the way things have been handled and the delaying of the elections and stuff. So I personally was confused. I mean, I get that you were really angry by it, but that wasn't my intention when I said that. I wasn't even thinking in that manner. So it just kind of threw me off. The narrative that we were saying that the civilians were fighting amongst themselves, I didn't see that either. I think that it's true, maybe we could have went more in depth as far as covering information in the episode. I think that's a fair critique, but I just felt like the notion that I was disinterested or I was downplaying the genocide of people, I think that that to me is what kind of threw me off, because I understand like my body language, or you might take it how you take it, but that just wasn't my intention basically. So I just was confused by that.
And is it okay if I can say? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go.
And I was definitely okay. It might be the whole you were calling the government a joke. We can put that there. But the word defend, when I think Veda said they contracted a different country, and then you completed the sentence with defend. That also in itself is like, what is being defended? Like, what is another country coming in and detonating chemicals on our land a defense of? And I feel like that's just the
Yeah,
key
once
word
again,
there, really.
that's why I said or whatever, because I think I misspoken, and when what Vida said, what she said, I was just like or whatever, and you said I rolled my eyes in that moment. That was me just rolling my eyes at the fact that I used the wrong word in the moment, and I just said or whatever. So for me, once again, the fact that the Ugandan government was being brought over and South Sudan was relying on another country to come over and defend or to protect or whatever it is, I thought as a whole it just was another example of them just having like no control over leading the country or whatever. So I think that's just the way I speak. I don't want you to take it as me not caring about the actual issue at hand, because obviously that is far from the truth. You know, I know you want to clear up what we were trying to do with Ladies of Sosa, but I think it shows in our heart that we do care about people. Maybe in that specific clip, it didn't convey or didn't come across that way. But I just thought that it was a misrepresentation of what my intentions were, because obviously I do care about what's happening. Maybe, of course, we could have went more into detail, and yes, we could have went way more extensively into like the intricacies of what's happening. I do accept that criticism, but I just don't want the notion to be out there that I didn't care, because I don't think it's fair. I understand it might have came across that way, but I just wanted to put that across.
And I think if I can add on to that, I think also with the word defend, it's like there's two different narratives that are being told. Like, if you hear from people who defend the government, they'll say, yeah, they hired Ugandan troops to defend the government. And then also the other side says, like, no, they hired them to kill our own people, our own civilians. So I think sometimes, like, because we're the spread of information, how information is being shared is shared through sometimes like people who are pro-government and some people who are pro like the white army, and then also people who just see things from a tribal lens. So it is difficult. And I think that's where scenario you would be good to kind of educate us on how to share information as people who have voices in the diaspora and who have a platform, and how journalism, like how the spread of information impacts us back home. So, and then also defending Christine, I really don't think that was her intention to downplay or be dismissive to the Nuer experience and to how Nuer people were killed. I think she was showing, or how the government hired troops to come and kill our own people. And she was saying that based off of what Vida said. She was saying, Vida said, the government hired Ugandan troops to come and kill their own people. And then she said, yeah, it's just a joke. So I think it was just like referring to what the actions of the government. And I think it may have gotten misconstrued, but I can understand how you feel like the murder of my people and the word joke coming together does not it doesn't relay the message. Well, I can understand how you could feel that way, but I just didn't like think it was fair as well for Christine to be seen in that light. But that's why we're here to have a conversation, just to lay out our differences. So
I think it comes with the job or the platform. I think that it's understandable, but I think that's why we wanted to clear it up in this manner and then bring attention to the issue in a better way. And obviously, we're not journalists, just to clear that up as well. We don't feel comfortable even being seen in that light. All we want to do is just like amplify South Sudanese voices. So that's why when you had a grievance with that episode, it's like, well, we'd love to have you on to come and let us know what was missing, and then maybe that'll help us bring light to what's happening in a better way than we covered it. Because honestly, the reason why we're so brief with it in the episode is because we didn't have an expert that was available right away. So we didn't want to get into it. So we just figured we just preach unity in the sense that let's not fight against each other. Whether you're Dinka, Nuer, Equatorian, the main culprit is the government. And I think we did try to call out the government, but maybe we didn't get specific and say like Salva Kiir or call out specific names. And I know that people were also saying in the comments that like we were tiptoeing around the main issue. I think that's also a fair critique as well. So ultimately, we're just here to educate ourselves and expand on the conversation. And if you have anything that you want to say as far as everything that we just talked about as well, I want to give you the floor to do that.
Okay.
Is it okay? I'm sorry, Diane. I wanted to add in scenario because she actually agreed with your perspective on how we approach the episode. So I also want to hear from you as well, Sana, to kind of from a journalistic perspective as well, how we can do better with sharing talking about sensitive issues with clarity and truth. And your I guess like not grievance is not a good word, but I guess like how you feel like we could approach these conversations better.
Yeah, I think with these conversations, I love what Nyan said in the beginning, which is having pride in your, I don't really like tribe because it's a very Eurocentric term, but having pride in your ethnic lineage, there's nothing wrong with it. And a lot of times, like even in 2013, when the war happened in 2013, and everybody's like, my tribe is South Sudan. Your tribe is not South Sudan. Shut up. Your tribe is actually not South Sudan. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging your actual tribe, where you come from. There's nothing wrong with that. What makes it a problem is when an individual thinks they are superior because they come from a certain tribe, or they think another is inferior because they come from a certain tribe, and that's what the issue is. And so I think even the blanketing of
Mhm.
like these ethnic groups do not exist just to quote unquote, maintain the peace. I don't really believe in that. I think if anything, the only thing we're doing by that is really just avoiding really talking about issues as they should be talked about and what the issues actually are. That said, I am also not a very tiptoey person. I just like to call things as they are. And so even again back to 2013, when everybody says, we all just suffered, man. Like, can we just all have peace? Yeah,
Mhm.
majority of however, there was one community that was particularly targeted by government forces. And one thing I personally do think we need to get clear is that there's a very big difference between civilians attacking each other or even rebel militias or anything attacking other people and a government that's supposed to represent everybody attacking a particular sect of that community or that country. And so whenever we speak about South Sudanese issues, 2013, we didn't want to speak about the fact that there was door-to-door, targeting of one particular community, the Nuer community in Juba. In literally one day, I believe it was 16 December in 2013, 200 to 300 Nuer men were literally killed door to door in Gudele, right? But we don't want to speak about that. And I think this is why I really understand when people, and I just want to say, I am Dinka, right? I'm Dinka. So, because sometimes people hear me speaking, oh, you're just Nuer, you're defending your community. No, I'm defending my people. They are that, and we want to speak about everybody is a victim. Not everybody is a victim in equal measure. There's a community that's a victim of a government that's supposed to be representing them, that's supposed to be protecting them, right? And I think I understand why Nuer community and Nuer people particularly are angry with the rest of us as South Sudanese, because we try to just paint this story with one paintbrush as if we're all in the same footing, but we're really not. And I know this even as a South Sudanese, when I go to Juba.
Your sound.
Uh-oh. Mm, she probably doesn't know we can't hear. Sana, we can't. We're miss. Oh
Oh,
no.
she dropped.
I know. She was
No,
going
she
in.
she was definitely making some really good points. And that's what I think it is important, that we see each other as humans and not just our tribe. And I feel like, I mean, this week I have to say, I do give credit to so many other different communities that are stepping up and really talking to this. And I do feel sad because there are people in their comments, if a Dinka person is saying that this is wrong, they're being called a traitor, you know. And if a Nuer person talks about it, they're being called a rebel. And I feel like that's just such a harsh reality that we do have to work through within our people. But acknowledging, in order for us to actually have peace, we have to acknowledge the pain that everybody experienced, because peace will not come if somebody feels like my story was never heard. We were murdered, we were this, and nothing was happened to it. And I feel like one of the main key points that this is so hard right now that is happening is very horrible, because it it pretty much demolishes the peace agreement that was created in 2018, which was to resolve this conflict. And that peace agreement was supposed to have a ceasefire and demilitarization. And IO and IG were supposed to be under one and representative under everything. And the sad part is that Silva Kiir has been pushing out the reforms that were supposed to take place within this agreement. We're supposed to have a preamble. We're supposed to have a one constitution that's supposed to be happening. And he has consistently violating this agreement, delaying the implementation of reforms, and targeted ethnic cleansing has been happening. Even this summer, with Juba people being targeted, with people that still forget felt wrong about Kazat. So it doesn't just stop at one point, you know? And I feel like once we actually address that, we as the civilians have to be able to hold those that are in the wrong accountable, regardless of what tribe they're from. And that will make us better. And I feel like one critical point that you guys did make that made me really, really sad was that you guys didn't feel comfortable ever like feeling safe back home. And it's like for this to be 2025 and people still feel that way, it could be discouraging. But I don't want that to discourage anybody, you know. I was actually born in South Sudan. And I lived there until I was about 6 or 7. And I have very harsh memories from when Northern Sudan was the one that was targeting us. You know, I've seen my mom get beat with an AK-47 in front of my eyes under that regime. So I feel like when we become essentially free and we're now dying in the whole hands of our own people, um, the transition that they're making right now is very, very, very dangerous, because with the fact that inviting Museveni and Uganda into this situation puts not only Nuer people in jeopardy, it puts all of South Sudan in jeopardy, because they're being paid in land, like our country is being subsidied off to Uganda. Kenya has a portion. And the fact that actual regular real Sudanese people cannot have nothing successful within our own country, but outsiders can, because it's being looted out, is so sad. And the whole reason that these people, and I make this very clear, I'm not pro Riamachar, and I want to make that clear, because I feel like he has lost a lot of faith within the Nuer community, because he's pushing. To me, I feel like he's a person that loves the idea of South Sudan, and it almost feels like he loved the idea of South Sudan way more than the actual citizens of South Sudan. And I feel like his name is being used to target Nuer people, because he's been, these last 3 years, he's been under pretty much house arrest, right? If it's about Riamachar being the wrong person for the country, you guys have access to kill him. And I feel like, for lack of a better word, it can happen, right? But I feel like he doesn't get dismissed because it's a way to use to commit these genocide. His name is being specifically used to target Nuer civilians on a regular basis, and that is just a dismay for me. And I feel like a lot of South Sudanese, if these both two parties are never held accountable, if we don't share these real stories that are happening, the world's never going to be able to be held accountable. And they will continue to, like what Silver is doing now. He's having his son-in-law replace him. You know, that's the big message that's going on here. He's trying to have the government transition without an actual vote. And the sad part is that he's doing that because if Nuer people get to vote, and I feel like if it was a vote between Rio and Silva again, he knows he technically wouldn't win, you know? And also, for a message that I want to get out to Nuer people who feel that one person is the way, they both have blood on their hands. Okay. So I don't think grooming up old people that are all they've known is hatred and fighting and war to lead a country to peace. It's just not gonna be a success, you know? And I feel like it's gonna come from an individual level, that we all have to educate ourselves on our history. We all have to work our little part to be able to go back home and to that land. You know, don't be like, we were brought here for a bigger purpose than it is. And I think that's why, like, feeling like it was downplayed. It's like, y'all, this is our future we're talking about. And you guys have a platform that could have everybody feel included, you know? And I think that's why the actual episode affected me so much, because I'm like, okay, ladies, like, I've seen you do work. I've seen you do research. So it's like, when I addressed it, one of the things my mother said is like, if you don't hold anybody accountable, you don't check them, you don't love them, because you're going to have them out there looking foolish. So Christine, I just wanted to get back to that point. I don't have no intention to misunderstand you. From whatever I've seen, you're a beautiful young lady, and I don't want to misinterpret your words. But my critique was that if I didn't care, I could have just kept scrolling, right? but I care about how you guys use this platform. I care about the message of our people getting out accurately, because there were people in those comment sections that were outsiders looking in like, oh, thanks so much for sharing this information. I've never known. But I'm like, that's not the correct information that's being shared. And that's my biggest critique of that is, it's your feelings and that's valid. But I definitely wouldn't have said anything if I didn't care for your success or for our history to be put out correctly,
And just so I may add, because you brought up how on the episode we talked about how sometimes we do like walk on eggshells because we want to go back home and we fear for our safety. And you'd be surprised. I know sometimes y'all think that we walk on eggshells with this conversation. People from like that live back home, they'll message us and say, "Be very careful talking about these topics." Even when we're barely like we barely are scratching the surface, they'll say, "Be careful, be careful." We get so many messages like that. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight that. And then also on the episode, in my opinion, y'all let us know. I feel like we didn't like pick a side. We did, point fingers at the government, but I don't think that we like picked a side. And with the like when I do like look up information on this topic, it's like they'll ask like who do you guys think is the perpetrator? Who do you think started this? Who's the main issue? And it's always like both of them have blood on their hands, And so I think when we say like when you say we didn't give the correct information, what part of it was not correct? I can understand saying that we needed to go into detail, but I'm trying to understand what part was like not correct, and that's for the whole panel, you, Scenario, as well, and you, Naya.
Yeah, so I think the part that I thought was incorrect was the whole idea of people are killing each other. That part it's not people just killing each other, Yes, it's people, but it's the government using the actual resources that should be meant to build our land to kill people. And it's not like regular day civilians are just fighting each other. And I don't think the conversation needs to be about tribal war, because I feel like, especially those in diaspora, we get to interact with all of ourselves, And I feel like it's the same back home. You'll see the people that are highly affected they're in these UNIMIS camps together. A lot of people that are in the United States came from these camps together. They were raised together. They're friends. They learned the language. Like we're all interactively together. So when it becomes about tribalism, I feel like it does a disservice to the people, because it almost puts it as if civilians are the cause, and then like the government is somehow picking a side between which civilian is more important, and that's not the case. It's an orchestrated, calculated genocide against a specific group of specific group of people, and does that mean nobody else is suffering? No, that's inaccurate, because these people are living together. Everybody, the 1.5 million that's been displaced is not just Nuer people. So, and I feel like there's a lot more love than there is hate. As much as people, as bots are there, they're going to come and say whatever they feel to be their narrative. And there's people who might be directly connected to the lines of people. There's people's fathers that their job is now to be in the government. And if your dad is in the government, you're not going to be publicly like shaming it, because that's where your lines are. But I feel like regardless if somebody is warning you or not, it's not safe to just be quiet. It's never going to change anything to be quiet. As much as these conversations are hard to have, it's important that they are had, because that's the only way change will come. There's so many things that happened before us, and that's why people say there's blood. People refer holding Riek Machar accountable for 91, which highly so do so, because I think if we were all, to me, I said if I was alive in 91, I would feel the exact the same way. And that's the argument when I say something, and that's a lot of people that come in, even Dinka will come and be like, well, you just don't know because you're Nuer and you're told like this. I was not raised in a place of hate, I don't get taught a propaganda that Dinka people are bad. That's not a nature that I know. So that's why when it comes just from somebody that I don't know or make an assumption because I'm Nora, I view things a different way or I feel like anybody else. That's not the type of person that I am. All of my friends, my family, people that I would go to war for are not connected to me by blood, you know? So that's why I think it's important to characterize it. And nobody's going to love what we have to say. Nobody has to agree with me, but just the facts are the facts. That we have to tell the story for what it is. There's a genocide happening. And I feel like if we do it, that let's say Nuer is the second largest. The next largest group is Equatoria, okay? Though that's a lot of people, Equatoria as a whole, I would think outnumber a lot of people, you know? But once they're starting with who they think is the target now. And that's why I say if everybody be silent when a group is being marginalized, it's gonna get to somebody next, you know? Because the problem is the government that's calculating this because once they're done with this, they have their number and feel like their tribe is on top, and that way the votes or everybody else doesn't matter because they can just tribe by tribe dwindle down everybody to where they get only people that could allow them to stay in this position. So that's why saying civilians, they're not attacking each other, you know.
Yeah,
And that's
thank
what I want to
you.
make clear.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to kind of, touch on that. Sana, scenario, do you want to add on to that, or Christine, anyone else? Also, if you're in the audience and you have a comment or you want to hop on, we will be leaving the live stream link in the comments. So a little bit at the end of this episode, we'll have you on to briefly kind of share your perspective as well. But I want to open the floor up to you, anyone else.
Yeah, I think I'll let Christine go first because she's been quiet for a minute.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. You said something about a critique was like us working to make the platform more inclusive. How do you feel like we can do that? Because I feel like we do try, but sometimes it's up to the people to like agree to come on the show. But like, what are some things that you can suggest or ways that we can give more people, I guess, a voice to where it will appear to be more balanced? Because that's something that always trips me and Sarah, because we tried, but I know it might not come across that way. So what are some things that we can do?
Oh, sorry, I'm reading.
Good. Andrew Peel said, I agree with most of your statements. I only disagree with you when you say his name is being used to target Nuer. Dr. Riak himself isn't only a curse to Nuer, but all of South Sudan. Well, that's a strong statement.
That's a strong statement, and maybe you have a valid point to feel that way. But again, the reason I say he's being used is because this person is on house arrest. I feel like they can easily control where he's at. He doesn't have forces with him anymore that can, let's say, protect him. And definitely, I want to differentiate White Army and IO. Okay, a White Army is created because a lack of defense from both IG and IO. That's what they're like. Let's just say they're like the Black Panther of South Sudan. Okay, and I feel like if, let's just say, the targeting that just happened was because of Riek Machar saying go do such and such, then the White Army would have not released the South Sudan soldiers and tell them this is not about tribe. We just have to protect our people. They could have easily killed those soldiers, but they released them, and those soldiers were ever to tell that story for themselves. So that's why I say if it was Riek Machar just saying go overthrow the government, then that it wouldn't have happened the way it did. That he doesn't have control over the White Army, and I want to clarify. I feel like he doesn't have control of much crap right now, and that's why, to me, for anybody who follows and hopes that he's one day going to be the president, unfortunately, get that out of your head. He's never going to be the president of South Sudan, and I think that's a strong statement, and that's something that even me within my own family, I have a discussion with, who do support him, and they say he has a good character, and I'm sure if you know him personally, you might think that. But I just don't, from a military perspective, for somebody who was in the army, you can't be a leader, a strong leader, and be this silent when this is happening to your people. And that's why I hold him accountable in this. You don't get to, you're quiet, you know, people, people get killed within, oh, he's the rebel guy, and then you show up and kiki with Silfakir. Like, that's why I lose the respect of that, you know. If you are, to me, if you are a rebel, then be that and protect your people. So he
And
doesn't do that.
I want you to answer Christine's question, but I just wanted to piggyback on what you said, because that sometimes is what confuses me, because I feel personally people want like us or me to pick a side. Like, say you're pro Salva, or say you're pro Machar, and if you don't really like fall in that guideline, like either way, it's like, oh, you're a traitor, especially me being from both tribes. And when we say, like, you know, we hold the government accountable, I know that could be sound broad, but it's like, I feel like they work together when it's convenient, you know, for them. So I don't know. So I don't really, we, in the episode that we just posted, we didn't really specify a government, which I think that's where a lot of people's critique was. It's like, put a name on it, you know. And I just think that the politics of this is just very, it's really messy. And so yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, like my perspective as well. Before you get into Christine's comment, and if you forgot the question,
Yeah, I think you said, well, how you guys can make it more diverse, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think we gotta take a look at your recruiting process. I think marketing will go into play in that, and I feel like you guys have, I believe, I don't know how much Sudanese or Nuer people, or how many type of Sudanese are in like Dallas. In Nebraska, all of us are in here. It's like a melting pot, you know, of everybody just being here and get to interact with each other on a regular basis. So I don't know what you guys' recruiting process is, but I feel like that would be the key. Like, have castings for episodes, so you're gonna like take out the topic, cast people that whether align with the conversation, and having not everybody has to agree, you know. And I feel like it shouldn't be an echo chamber, um you know. And it shouldn't be like, oh, we're just gonna make this, it's not every episode is gonna be loved by everybody, you know. But I feel like when it's about subjects like this, it is more, it's important how things are said, um in order for them to get across correctly. And I feel like when you have, and I don't know how much, Sarah, you grew up in, like, as a Nuer. I'm not like, what's your, like, your, do you feel like you're culturally Dinka or culturally Nuer? Like, you have like understanding of how that be intricate, or like what's your background when it comes to, because you did say you are half Nuer, and you felt like it wasn't hard to, or it's hard to pick a side. I'm sorry, I don't want to misquote you. You said it's hard for someone who's Denka to pick a side, or maybe someone who's Fulani to pick a side. And
yeah, no. So my dad is Nuer, and then my mom is Dinka. But to your point, here in Dallas, we really don't have a huge Nuer community. They're very, very small, and they live like in a further part of Dallas as well. So we really don't have a huge Nuer community in Dallas, and so that's why it is hard for us to cast more people on the show. But yeah, but social, I guess, like culturally, I grew up Dinka because my mom is Dinka, and you know, our moms are the ones who like really take care of us, like like, you know, groom us and make us become the woman that we are.
yeah.
So I think I've been around more Dinka people for sure. But when I go back to South Sudan, I'm around my dad's side of the family, which is rare. And yeah, and then and our family history is a little bit complicated because my dad was also kind of adopted by Dinka people. And so he speaks Dinka fluently. He spoke a little bit of Nuer, rest in peace to him. So he's my late father. Yeah, so to answer your question, I do feel like I'm both tribes because that's what I am. I can't take away my Nuer side, and I'm very proud of that as well. But I also grew up Dinka with my mom. So I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody.
No, yeah. No, yeah, because I feel like I only ask that because anybody who says it's hard, it's not picking a side. I feel like it's picking right. I feel like anybody who feels like they have to pick a side in this is, there's some internalized hate that they don't want to speak out, because it's easy to see what's happening. It's human. We see it. we can see the wrong when it's happening to Palestine. We can see it in Black Lives Matter. We can see it in any other marginalized group. And I feel like, unfortunately, it doesn't get seen when it comes to this situation, you know? And that's why I say it shouldn't, like, this is wrong. You could be black, white, purple, whatever. This is wrong. And there's nothing wrong with calling that out, because I feel like this part of me become more sensitive as more if I become a mom, like, to see the footage that is happening with, like, children, their skin's burnt off. Like, that doesn't matter what language that child speak, you know? That, like, this shouldn't be a conversation of whether it's okay because they're Nuer or it's okay because it's Denka, you know? The way they're dying, we don't technically will not know what tribe you support was also affected in that. And if you can't call that out, then you're just a hateful person, you know? If you can't call that out, it's a disgrace to me, you know? And I grew up cold. My mom is completely Nuer. I didn't grow up around my dad's side, but she taught us, and everybody around me is not all Nuer. Like, you know, so I get bits and pieces of how people feel. Like, me and the people that are my friends, neighbors, or kids that I grew up with, we get to have these conversations, and even more heated conversations happen within my own household, because there is a difference of generational understanding of the concept of what's going on. But I feel like when we were with North Sudan, it was easy to identify the problem, you know, and we can all easily pick at that and look at that, because we're like, oh, we're definitely being marginalized by this one group, the North, and it makes sense to us. But that's the same thing that's happening right now. And I feel like what triggers this whole thing as well, just a few months ago, the North Sudan was killing South Sudanese people on camera. And I was gonna say, that is a time where you call for backup, you know? And that didn't happen. That's the time where you could have called for backup. But not on top of that, just this week alone, he has also Salva Kiir has called in the Northern Army to go attack Bentiu. So right now there's fighting in Bentiu between North Sudan and Nuer people in Bentiu. So that's happening. And the Upper Nile does not only have Nuer people. There's a lot of people that are being affected there. And I'm telling you, North Sudan does not care about the Janubin, if we get that at target. But it's like you're helping two different countries dismantle. And I guess the bigger picture is probably less voting turnout. That's what it is. So you can continue to be in this powerful position. But it's it's disheartening what's happening. So that's why using our platforms to really get that message out and say, yes, things are happening, and it's not tribal. We have a horrible, horrible president and a long list of 5 vice presidents that are fucking shit up for us, for a lack of a better word. And do we have a resolution? Do we have an idea of what we can do? All we can do is use our voices and tell the stories of what's going on correctly. And I feel like anybody who watches the Ladies of Sosa's platform, you shouldn't be like, okay, I don't feel like I'm being included today. I'm just gonna unfollow. Like, reach out. If there's have surveys, ladies, just send out surveys to gauge of what this could be done differently, for who would like to contribute to the platform. Because like they just said, if they're reaching out and nobody's showing up to the casting, then we can't be upset if your narrative is not being heard, if you're not showing up to tell it, you know. We all have to be responsible for our own voices and our own history. So I invite all of us to just learn from that. Um, for the most part, I would say, if you want to be involved, Nuer, Denka, Shuluk, Murle, any whatever tribe you are, if you want your culture to be displayed, then you have to fight for that, you know.
Yeah, and we appreciate you actually joining the conversation, even though, you know, you had some disagreements. with how the approach was done, at least you were willing to come on and, speak to us directly, because some people will have like, like an issue with something, and then they'll message us, and we're like, yeah, we would love for your voice to be on the show, since you say you think that there's a voice missing or a tribe missing. We would love to have you on the show. It's like, oh, well, I'll get back to you on that. So it's like, we need it's like a, give and take. We all need to work together, because this is a platform for all of us, we would hope, and we want everybody to feel represented, honestly.
And I think that's incorporating the lives will help, so that people who can't be in Dallas obviously can still be able to have a voice. But Sarah, you should, we have like 4 comments.
Yeah, I just read that. So yeah, they had just announced the the siege of issuance for visa holders in here, Marco Rubio. And I feel like I'm not surprised, because the last not Sid to me, Sid and Donald Trump are the same people, just different fonts. So I definitely, if you know anything, Nebraska again has a very majority of South Sudanese. In the last term with Trump in office, a lot of South Sudanese got deported, and unfortunately, we're going to see a surge of that. And since obviously South Sudan is not in shape to accept these, they barely handle the regular civilians. They're not going to want to welcome those of us that they feel is fucking up. But it's very sad. But these next 3 years are gonna be tough for all of us. So be on your P's and Q's. If you're out here in diaspora, don't go to jail. They're not playing. Be aware of your actions, and I feel like the sad part about us, I think, are men in diaspora. They're in a very tricky situation in regards to the actions that they can take, because you can't be a gangster in a place that's not your land,
especially not anymore.
But it's like, they're and you don't even have to be. At this point, I feel like there's a big number of reduction again against immigrants right now, and they're obviously going to.
Camera.
Yeah. What's up, camera? Okay.
Did you fix that? Oh no, I don't know how that happened.
I don't know either. Okay, hold on. Oh, did I lose?
Also, you guys, we shared the live stream link if you guys want to join towards the end. But Sana, we wanted to kind of incorporate you in the conversation. You've been kind of quiet. We want to hear what you have to say as far as everything that we've kind of discussed. Nayan kind of talked about how we could be more inclusive to other tribes and other voices on the show, which I think is going to be very helpful for us to do, like questionnaires. You said, I think that's one thing. And then if there's anything else you want to add on to, we would love to hear you.
Well, I didn't answer your first question. I was getting to it before I got cut off. But before anything, I disagree when it comes to diversity on your platform. I think for me personally, that's one thing I've always appreciated about Ladies of Sosa since the genesis. I don't know when you started, 2016, way back then. For me, I've never seen it as lacking diversity in terms of as South Sudanese. I think all through there's always been a very intentional effort to make sure that there's different, ethnicities represented. So personally, I don't have that critique. I think maybe if it comes to certain topics, sensitive topics, maybe in that case you could have more representation in terms of that. But that's that. I just want to point that out. When it comes to us as diaspora and sharing of information with regards to South Sudan, one, I think it's very important for people actually put in the work before they speak, because I think a lot of people are very quick to write or speak or shout before they've actually put in the work to actually, have something to stand on, have a leg to stand on, because there's a lot of misinformation, and our community is literally high key leaders of misinformation. Like, people just share any and everything, and before you know it, everybody's regurgitating the same thing, which is actually not factual, not based off of anything except somebody went on their X and tweeted something, and then boom, everyone is repeating the same thing. So I think it's very important for us, if we truly care about South Sudan, to really put in that work. And it's not just bite-sized information. You get one one quick video or whatever, really put in the work, because a lot of this information is really out there, but people just don't take the time to do it. But everybody wants to be a loud voice online, and that, me, it's more damaging than it is helpful. Nyan mentioned like the killing of Sudanese in South Sudanese in Sudan, and I remember seeing everybody going, yeah, if you see any Sudanese in South Sudan, yeah, just kill them. And I'm thinking, Sudanese in South Sudan are refugees running away from the same thing that is killing the South Sudanese in Sudan. Secondly, a lot of these people are the diaspora. I promise you, I know you know a Sudanese in your radius, but you've not picked up a knife to go and kill that person in America, in Australia, in Kenya, in Uganda, in whatever country you're in, but you want the person at home to do that. First, for me, it shows me you don't actually believe in what you're pushing, because if you really believe in what you're pushing, why don't you catch that flight home and be on the front lines, be the first person to do that? But people just like to create all these chaos that they won't be the ones dying for, right? So we need to be very, very responsible. And I think that's where, for you guys as ladies of SOSA, that's where your maybe the contention comes in, and how to reconcile between, okay, we can speak the truth, but then also, is that causing division? I don't think truth in itself causes division. I think how truth is shared sometimes causes division, right? So if I come up and say, well, Noor people are this, or Dinka people are this, or these kinds of people are this, I could easily cause division. However, facts will always remain facts, right? If I am saying that the South Sudanese government is aerial bombarding civilians and using chemical weapons to kill these civilians, that is just a fact. It's it's not something that I just made up, or I just woke up and I'm just saying this. It is a fact. So even if you don't like it, you don't have to like the truth, because the truth at the end of the day does not care about your feelings. It is the truth, and it stands as the truth, right? So I think you do, or we do, our people a disservice when we walk that line in a very, we're trying to not step on anybody. We're trying to maintain this illusion of peace that does not really exist, because the people are dying and they're not experiencing that peace. And so us coming to, and again, and Nyan said this as well, in terms of saying we're picking sides. Sides is the government, IGIO. That's the sides. You don't have to pick any of those sides, because really none of those sides deserve to be picked, right? However, there is the civilians. That one is not even a question of sides. It's just civilians are dying. It's not hard. It's like people are dying. Civilians are dying. It's not a side. It's people are dying. And these people could be Nuer people. It could be any community, but people are dying. It's really just that simple, right? So when people try to complicate death of a people, and specifically death of non-combatants, of innocent civilians, and paint it as if it's a complicated thing, it's really not complicated. Innocent.
Do you think that like the idea of picking sides is like picking like Riek Machar's side or picking Salva Kiir's side? I think that's the narrative. That it's like, in order, if you want to speak out against like the killing of Nuer people, that means you like Riek Machar, you are a follower of Riek Machar, his ideologies, so, and then it's like, if you are pro-government, then you cannot, or if you agree with the government, or if you're Dinka, then you can't speak out on what's happening to Nuer people. And I think that's the issue that maybe we as a diaspora need to fix.
I think it's one of those things. At the end of the day, if people are determined to misunderstand you, they will misunderstand you. It doesn't matter how you phrase what, how you say what. So for me, how I personally look at it is, I get my facts straight. I'll do my research. I will look into this. Now I know what the truth is, and what, the lie is, or what the propaganda is, or whatever it is. Now I'll share the truth. How you choose to receive it, how you paint me, that's really your own problem. And at some point, you really have to be okay with knowing not everybody will like you. As long as you like you, as long as you like the person you wake up with every day, it doesn't matter. Speak your truth. And that's literally it. And sometimes you will get it wrong, right? There's times like I said something, I come back later, I'm like, actually, nah, shit, that wasn't that right. And it's okay to come back and say, you know what? yesterday I said this and this was not actually very accurate. This is what I know to be accurate now based on the information that's been presented to me or I've come across or whatever the case is. And so people, there's always, even right now as you are, even when you try not to, you know, be on any end, there's people like Nyad, for example, who is not happy with that. So there's always going to be somebody who is not happy with whatever it is you're doing, as long as what you do it from a just and true place. I think that's what's most important, right? And so yeah, I think there's never a side when it comes to innocent people. It's just that simple. If Equatorian people were the ones that were being aerial bombarded today, my side will still be the same. If it was, you know, Shilluk people, my side will still be the same. It's just civilians are dying and they're being killed by their own government. A government that's supposed to represent all the people is targeting a certain portion of that population based on ethnic lines. And so that one is just very simple. And so I think you can still make it very clear that you do not stand for React and you do not stand for Self-Fakir. You don't stand for the government. You don't believe in the government. But this is still happening to this group of people. And so especially when it comes to amplifying voices, if we're amplifying voices, then it's the voices of the most marginalized that we should be amplifying, that we should make count, because nobody else is doing that, right? But that said, I just want to talk about, you know, in terms of why we are here as well, because we have this thing where we pick out like the branch of the tree without also going into the roots of the tree. So after 2018, when the revitalized peace agreement was signed between Kir and Riek, there were certain stipulations that were supposed to have been reached by now, right? There was a constitution that was supposed to be done. However, until today, they're still drafting a constitution. Like, I come from a legal background. I don't see what's so hard about drafting a constitution. They've been doing this for a good couple of years, as if there's no experts. And then they keep saying this thing of there's funding shortages and there's these shortages. My guy, you guys are rocking up out there with your big cars and getting new cars every day and throwing dollar to what artist and what artist and what artist. You have money to draft a constitution, get a constitution done. It's just that that's not a priority for you. So stop lying to us that there's no money, there's no this, there's no that, when we're seeing government misappropriating funds every single time. And then I see everybody come up and clap for BMM, Bull Mel, clapping for him because all of a sudden salaries are being paid. That money has always been there. Why are we clapping for this man for doing what should have been done anyway, right? And just one thing as well, people say, and this is another thing with like the misinformation that goes around our community. People say he's Kir's son-in-law. He's not actually Kir's son-in-law. There's just rumors that he's dating her daughter, all of that, but it doesn't even matter. Like, why is our country in the hands of one tribe? Why does that? It does not make sense at all, right? And then you have people that call themselves Gen Council of Elders. You're no group of elders. You're a political party. Come out very clearly. Say you're a political party. Stop calling yourself some council of elders when really you don't represent even the people you're supposed to be elders to, right?
So council of hate.
It literally, quite literally, right? And so there's the constitution. There is still, until today, there's no peace and reconciliation committee that's been done to really look into what has happened since we've had this country, what happened during the Civil War, who should be held accountable for that. There's no accountability. So the best way I can explain this, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, I see and link this to the White Army. I personally would not call them the Black Panther of South Sudan, right? Because it's the White Army is not new. They didn't just come to existing since the country. It goes back to the Sudanese Civil War in 1955, and obviously it's changed hands and it's changed. I guess the shape of it has changed over time. However, I see like young Nuer people like really pushing the White Army or endorsing them, and I understand that. And why I understand that is, and the best way to describe this is, I think we all know this clip of Tupac when he was talking about if you come outside this hotel room every day and you see this food there and they open it, they show you this food, but then you ask for food, nobody gives you food. Tomorrow, you're going to be more aggressive with it. The next day, you'll be more aggressive with it. And after that, you'll bang through the door and come in. So a lot of young Nuer people have been telling us this is happening to our community. Like, where the hell are you guys? Why is nobody else speaking about this? Why is it only us speaking about what's happening to us? So yes, anybody that's defending us at this point, that's who we're with, right? And that's why you find even young people have a certain likening to certain politicians or individuals, because these individuals, these old ass people, keep using tribal lines to gain whatever interest and push their own political ambitions. So it's up to us to unify us, because otherwise they will always divide us, because we already divide ourselves and we don't really speak the truth and we don't stand for each other. But all of that goes really to really knowing what it is you're fighting for and why you're fighting it, and really having that information. Because a lot of people, every time I even speak to like some of my Dinka people that I know, a lot of my cousins, we are very aligned. But a lot of times I speak to people and I can really just see that you're not really speaking from a point of knowledge, you're just speaking from an affiliation to a tribe. And it's very crazy, because these people that you want to defend because they come from your tribe, they don't stand for you. Like, if anything.
Sorry, you cut off again, but
Always when she's getting into
she's
it.
getting so it's so good. It's your background knowledge is really amazing, and I agree with everything she's saying in regards to that. Again, I feel like when people don't feel like they're being defended, they're gonna have to do what they're going to have to do to defend themselves. And I'm not a champ. Like I understand the actions that are being taken by the White Army, and I definitely don't understand. Like, just be the accountability is this: when you are marginalized, people will defect to where they can feel like they'd be served. So these people have been made empty promises by the government, and they're now just tossing them a couple of money after civilians have just been bombarded. They're now just having this big payout of buy bull mail. But it's like you guys are being blindfolded. Like, for you guys to sit here and bring in Yoweri Museveni, who I think is a cancer and a disease to the all of East Africa. If anybody knows anything about him, he's been wanting to be able to control all of East Africa. So it's like this thing happening in broad daylight right now, and y'all welcoming him after he just bombed your citizens, and y'all in the airport kicking with him. That they're the payout. And I think like Social Security specifically keeps the military starved, underpaid, for because he is afraid, he is paranoid about being overthrown. So since he in his head there's a coup that's going to happen, so he's not going to strengthen his people. He's going to give them as much to be like to still hang on if they're getting a little dollar behind him. But does he really care about these soldiers? No. And
I'm glad you brought up the paranoia, because I do think that's like there's like a lack of trust between both Self-Care and Riek, and so how do we go from there as a country? Like, if these two people do not trust each other, I know there's not an easy answer, because South Sudan, there's just so many different layers as to how we're going to be able to attain stability. But if these two leaders don't trust each other, and
we just have to stop believing that somehow the reality is they're not the end goal for a good South Sudan. That's the reality, regardless whatever tribe you are. These people are not gonna be. We're not gonna ever bear good fruit from them, like as long as they are alive. But it's also very important that they're also. I feel like they've set up for the Young Council. However, these people don't have their kids in South Sudan. Their kids are being educated somewhere safe in Dubai. They're living off these fancy lies so that they can go in and recreate this rhetoric. And I just be a call to action to dismantle these people in a sense. But anybody who sits here and be like, I can't wait for the day that Salva Kiir becomes a great president, that's not gonna happen. And I can't wait for the day that Riek Machar is gonna run this. As long as these two and everybody else that's behind them are still in existence, they're not, like, that's a reality check y'all need to get a grip of. This is not, they're not the answer. That's, and fighting on social media about it, yeah, it's not gonna be the answer. And that's somebody gonna have to take some gall. And unfortunately, there's gonna be, like, this is not gonna be the last bloodshed, because there are already predictions that the last targets, there's gonna big blowout in Juba, unfortunately, So there's like, we're gonna suffer some more, And all we
Yeah,
could
it's
do
definitely
is
gonna get worse before it gets better. That's what
get
it looks
better.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the big conspiracy right now is people believe that Riek might have already been killed because he was not at that meeting with Museveni and Silva this weekend that took place, and everybody's like, "Oh, bring him alive." Da, da, da. Who knows? Is that a possibility? It's quite a possibility, because how you bring a president who already has a destabilized government to come render peace within your home? Like, to me, it's a joke to think that these people, outsiders who don't have control of their own citizens, is somehow gonna want peace when their hunger is in your land. South Sudan is so rich, and unfortunately the civilians don't will never, as long as these people are there, will never get to experience that. They're just, all the land, like the upper Nile, is full of oil. The soil is great. Like, there's fruits to be bared there, and they're handing it out to the next person. And to have paid billions to another country, while the soldiers and people who have put their life, because there's people who truly are fighting, and they think they're fighting the good fight. They join these groups, they join the military thinking they're fighting the good fight, and there's going to be, you can't fight the good fight with evil people. If you're along with them, if you're along for the ride in hopes that somehow it's going to click in them and they're going to want peace, it's called delusionalism. And I feel like a coup is necessary at this point. Somebody just gotta have a coup is necessary. That's what the paranoid is like. There's better out there. You can't just keep eating bits and pieces of nothing and somehow say, hopefully, almost, you keep swallowing your integrity, because that's what the people who believed in Riek kept swallowing their integrity, and now they feel like, oh well, I'm going to jump ship and see where I can get a little bit of money. And that's why I put some responsibility, a lot of responsibility, to the newer leaders and generals who have now joined Salva Kiir. You're just as deplorable, because you just shown that your efforts were not because you want a better tomorrow. You just want a little bit of cash, and now you're willing to sell out your people to do so. And that goes on both sides. If you're in the South Sudan force, you're selling out your people to get a little payday. And then when you guys have now sold out our land, what was the fight for?
Yeah. Andrew said, let's read some of the comments. We've gotten some comments since our conversation. Andrew said the so-called White Army is the one attacking all tribes in the entire Upper Nile region. Dr. Riek and his White Army are very strong, but being strong without vision is dangerous. You guys
I
are
feel like putting Dr. Riek and the White Army in the same sentence is incorrect. I think they're open. Can you close that door? Yeah, but I was like, putting White Army and Riek again is, I feel like Sana already made a point to that. They have to do what they have to do. I don't think they're correlated. Their actions are not driven by Riek. We can clear that up. They're not. If you say IO, yes, but IO has all been supposed to have been part of IG already this past 3 years, right? They're supposed to have sorry.
No, you're okay.
Playing outside.
It's okay.
You're supposed to have had.
Real quick, jump in there. We have so many people commenting. We haven't been able to read all of it, but we want to invite you guys. If y'all want to join the live, Elisa, can you please drop the link one more time in the chat box? I don't know how to do that, but for anyone,
I'll drop the link. If y'all want to hop on, we're gonna give you guys at the end. We're not gonna keep our panelists on all day. I know you guys have a busy.
Yeah, we'll give just 5-10 minutes to jump on since we're nearing the end here. If y'all want to add on, sorry.
Yeah, but just, I guess, Sarah, would you think that the correlation with Riek Machar being related to the White Army, is that like similar to people believing that all Palestinians are like a part of Hamas, or like, would that be the same thing to you?
I would believe so. Like, if you speak out, they just automatically assume you're pro Riek Machar, and I'm just like, two things are false at the same time. I hate what's happening, and I can speak up on that without saying, oh, I have to. And it's like every time I make that argument, if I say, oh, you real supporters and da. No, I'm not a support. I don't support what's happening to our people. And that's just point blank, period. There's nothing to expand on that. And if your response has to mention real, then you are part of the problem. Because if I don't mention him, doesn't mean that I don't hold him accountable in what area. And if I don't say this is happening because of such and such, what's happening is wrong. And we can just stop there. And if there's no explanation for that, there's no needs to be any bigger conversation about what's happening is wrong. And we can just stop there. And if you don't agree with me, then I think you're part of the problem, you know? And you don't have to think I support Ria Mashar because I'm Noor. Okay? The nigga killed my cow when I was a baby. Like, I'm not supporting him. That's real.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Nyama took our offer and she wants to hop on really quickly.
Yes, but I forgot to mention this. If you are going to be on, you do have to be on camera. That's
so. Oh, Nyama, do you mind hopping on camera? Sana, the only reason why Sana's not on camera is because she's in Africa. They don't have electricity.
That's the one rule.
I'm so sorry. I'm not ready to be on the camera. I have my kids everywhere, but that's okay. You guys can drop me if I cannot be.
No, it's okay. We'll let you talk. Just go ahead. Okay. But next time, y'all, camera.
Okay, yeah. I got you next time. I'll be camera ready. Okay, just give me a second, then I want to really pick it back right on the White Army myth that's going around, because I'm one of the people that's been really advocating to separate those and to not paint a picture that's not about the White Army. So just give me a second and I'll come in.
Oh, okay. Okay, no worries. Okay, we'll keep you on there, I guess, for now. And then what else? I guess
backstage, but if anyone else wants to join.
If anyone else wants to join, the link is on there. And we're still gonna have you still can be a part of it, Nyama. So make sure whenever you're ready, hop back on. But I guess in the meantime, since we're kind of wrapping up the show and letting other people in the audience hop on, what are some of the reflections from both from the audience and also our panelists? Like, what are some final thoughts, like we say on our episodes? Like, what are the final thoughts from our guests, from you, Scenario, from you, Nayan? What do you think is like the overarching, like how we can bring this whole conversation together, or anything that you missed?
I think Andrew in there had a lot of, I don't know if you guys can pull back. He had a lot of good points that or questions that he was making. And I think I don't know which one I was reading, but it kind of went off my screen.
Yeah, I'll bring up Andrew. So let me do the first one first. So he said, but don't forget the civilians you're talking about were the ones who wiped out the entire brigade of the SSPDF. You guys need to study what is going on before you start to talk about it. Okay. And then he also said the so-called White Army is the one attacking all tribes in the entire Upper Nile region. Dr. Riak and his White Army are very strong, but being strong without vision is dangerous. And Andrew, if I missed anything else, please let us know in the chat. I'm just bringing up what I can see right now.
Does he want to come up? I really
do you want to come and talk? You are free to come and talk.
I feel like he has a lot to add to the conversation. So please, is that link in there, sir?
Yeah, I'll put the link again just in case. But Sana, do you want to add on to anything?
Well, I think if he's coming up, I don't know if he's coming up or not. I would just like to ask him which child in Nasser killed the SPDF. That's really just my question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say this question one more time, because you cut out a little bit, at least for me?
Oh, sorry. I think my question is because people keeps conflating again. Yes, the White Army is made up of civilians. Those are armed combatants, right? If armed combatants and government go head to head, cool, do your thing. But my question is, which civilian child in Nasser picked up a gun or picked up a knife or whatever and actually attacked an SSPDF soldier, right? Because people keep conflating this in a way to justify the killing of civilians. And it's really just not justifiable at all. It's very simple. The government used disproportionate force, whatever it is they're saying, what happened, who's saying what happened, cool. but the government still use disproportionate force that it's even under. It's a violation of, literally the rules of war. You're supposed to differentiate between,
International law. Yeah.
yeah, between civilians and armed militias or armed people in general, right? But the government did not do that. The government indiscriminately bombed whole villages, not a whole village, bombed whole villages, and didn't care to differentiate between civilians and armed people, right? And really just gave a very nonchalant warning. Well, if you're a civilian, you don't want to be caught in this, leave. As if it's so easy to pack up and leave, as if these people have the means that these guys have when war breaks out and they fly to Kenya, fly to Uganda, fly to the UK, fly whatever. And it's crazy that people, for whatever reason, it's just either your tribal affiliation, either you're just blinded, whatever it is you're blinded with, you want to find any justification to justify the killing of civilians, and it just does not make sense to me.
Yeah, I think I had a guy definitely was in there. Yeah, well, they were told to leave if they didn't want to be affected. These people don't have the means to leave, and now they barely have clean water to drink. Like, if I was just seeing some footage today where it's just all dismantled. They're like the UN, all of those people that were supposed to be helping people have shut down their resources. So they're now even in a much worse scenario. You didn't give them a time. Did you give them the funds to leave and be like, this is not about you? No. Like, some people just keep coming in that, well, they could have left. What the heck are you talking about? These people don't even know their next meal, and you want to say they could have left? And you want to bomb them at night and say they could have left? Yeah, there's just like the argument. People will find a reason for their own internal hate to justify this. And at the end of the day, there's no justification for me for any of this to be happening. There's no justification. And trying to conflate Yamashoda and the white army in the same sentence is inaccurate, because the white army exists because the government failed. And that can go back to whatever year it started. It was under North Sudan. They were also protecting themselves, and now they have to protect themselves from the same government that they voted to be separate from. So
Andrew said he's not ready to come up now, but thank you for inviting him. No problem. Sarah, are you adding?
What happened to Christine?
Oh
no, not one of the hosts. Let me add her back on.
I took myself on stage.
But
think your mom was still trying to come up. Come on, girl.
Yeah, come on.
She's a very person that's very fired up about this, and I definitely
let's just hear. Go ahead.
Hi, ladies. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for talking about this topic. I think that I actually didn't watch the full video, but I watched the clips that Nyayen did. And as she mentioned, I have been one of the people that's like just have to come out and speak a lot most recently on this issue, because we see like a narrative that's being painted so extreme, especially when it comes to the white army, like where they are painting them to be terrorists, and we all know that anyone who is labeled and identify as a terrorist, they do not have a good ending. So the simple truth is white army are just regular civilians who are armed. Like even all of us right now, we have like cousins who's still in the village, and those cousins have their own guns to protect themselves. So that's really is as simple as that. Like when you hear white army, they are regular civilians who happen to have their guns to protect themselves, to protect their rights, to protect their women's, right, to protect their children. That's what white army is. So the narrative that's going around about like yes, they can fight, but they are not trained. Like they are not trained soldiers. They are and the history has shown that they are loyal to Riek Machar, right? That's why they always group toward Riek Machar. But really, they're just there because when dangers come to them, they protect themselves. So when we really unpack the issue that's happening and how it started with the government. It's the government that's plan. It's the government planning from like sending SSPDF. Like the SSPDF were sent to Nasser about 8 years ago or so, right? And those SSPDF ended up like abusing their rights, right? They were like raping women, they were guarding the resources like the river and stuff like that. So they were getting into altercations with the White Army that are still in the region because they live there, right? So the SSPDF has to be like taken out because an altercation happened. That's the beginning of all this, right? And then out of nowhere, the government decided to you know, pack a whole you guys saw the boats that was full of soldiers, right, to be sent to Nasser. And then these people were petitioning to say that, hey, we do not want the SSPDF. We want unified forces, which was supposed to be made up of IG and IO, right? Both soldiers that are loyal to the government as well as to Riek Machar, because there should be some sort of balance. Because in the past, the history has shown that these people that were supposed to be protecting the civilians were just abusing their rights. And then really it all goes back to what? Them not being paid, right? Those soldiers were probably just working there for that long without pay. So now they have to protect the resources of the people, such as you cannot fish in this particular area because the soldiers' government are protecting it. So I get so surprised that we miss those big like those big moments that started the conflict. So the government went anyway and sent those SSPDF, and then they were challenged by the White Army that were in Nasser, right? So when they were defeated, what happened? The government turned around and bombed everyone, including the White Army, along with civilians. That's why we're in this mess today. So if you are gonna sit here and call the White Army terrorists, it's just incorrect, and they are not trained soldiers
Militia.
by whatsoever, right? Like they simply just like your cousins that are in the village that own their guns and protect their rights and their citizens. They're not marching right now to Juba to overthrow the government. The government came and invade them. The government came and did not care about any rights that they do have as human beings. Because if you're sitting over here raping women and then killing people every single day, like what will lead to is a retaliation that did happen. So I really do not support the painting of the White Army being a terrorist, because we know anyone that's labeled as terrorist, they do not have a good ending. And these are just regular civilians that we need to look at them as just as regular civilians that's protecting their rights. That's what White Army is. That's what it has been in history, and that's what it is today, and that's what it's probably going to be 50 years from now if they still exist. So I just really want to add that piece out there. And I've been one of the people that's really advocating on what is going on. It's important to look at the importance of it, because the beginning of it, because it just didn't start with SSPD, with White Army killing all these soldiers, right? It's been going on forever. And I think that it's fair to say that anywhere that has SSPDF, they have been abusing rights, even in some areas in the Denka land, where an altercation ultimately would happen. So I just want to add that in. I know we're kind of we probably have went past it, and I couldn't hear what the topic was for a second when I was on the waiting room. So I just want to add that piece in about the White Army and clear it up for everyone that's confused about it.
Thank you so much. I'm going to let Sana give her final thoughts because she has to jump off of here in a second. So I don't know if you're still there or not, Sana.
Oh, sorry, I was literally just typing it, but okay, thank you. I think South Sudan politically is a very complicated landscape, right? So regardless whether it's IO, IG, White Army, or any other armed militias in South Sudan, however, the killing of civilians on ethnic lines by the government is not complicated at all. It doesn't need it doesn't need any justification. If you're trying to find, justification for that, to me, I'm very sorry, you're an idiot. There's no justification for it. It's very simple. Civilians are being killed by a government force, and that is not equal to civilians being killed by any other militia or by other civilians. Those two are very then they cannot be tantamount ever, right? And we all have a responsibility to hold the government accountable, because that's the government that's supposed to represent all its people. The other things between who was which group and who's loyal to who, that's a whole different conversation. However, civilians being targeted ethnically by government is wrong in every measure of it, and it's really just that simple. But yeah, that's really it for me. Having another army as well, having another army come to the country, and there are military cooperations between Uganda and South Sudan, agreements. They've had this for a while, since like the late 2000s. But that does not, there's as much as there is no written out clear thing about whether M7 can do this in South Sudan or not do it, he is there by the invitation of the South Sudan government, right? So they have invited him there. So even when his very idiot of a son, who is very, oh man, the most erratic human I've ever seen on the internet. But even when he does all that, there's nobody else to be blamed but the South Sudanese government that invited another military from a whole different country to come into your country and kill civilians from your own country. And so if there's anybody to be held accountable, it still is our government. And it's either you really have no control of that government if M7 can run the country as he wants and send his forces whenever he wants, or you just don't care for your civilians, which the truth is they do not actually care. But I think we've war, and everybody is kind of, there's still the traumas from the war, and you know, the war with Sudan and the civil war that happened again in 2013. All of that, we still have a lot of traumas over that. So people are okay with this illusion of peace. You know, people just want peace, but peace is very expensive. You don't just get peace because we all just decide, oh, today we just want a big happy family and hold hands. Peace comes with accountability, peace comes with justice, peace comes with truth. And until we can have that, we will never truly have peace in South Sudan.
Yeah. Thank you, Samantha, for making, simplifying the issue as it on the lines of like right and wrong. So I think a lot of people, even ourselves, sometimes will look at it from either tribal lens or how we grew up, or just like who you trust more in politics, when there's all of us are struggling from this current government, and it's important for us to speak from a place of clarity and truth. And so we're really happy that you guys kind of gave us some constructive criticism, not only just for us, but for all of the voices in the diaspora that are speaking on sensitive issues that are happening in South Sudan, which is super, super important for us to be able to navigate these conversations in a way that is not divisive, but still truthful. So
I would like to respond to a comment that Andrew just made.
Oh, okay.
Can you bring, yeah.
I'll read it. He said, Sarah and Christine, please protect the truth. I don't believe the young ladies are well informed about what really happened in Nazir. The entire children of some soldiers are killed by the Nuer White Army. So,
the entire children are killed by the soldiers of White Army. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, because I think Yamal just clearly explained out the process, but I feel like you already have your own perspective of however you feel about the White Army. And I feel like that's not even part of this conversation, but you're entitled to feel however you want to feel about it. But claiming that people are not well versed in actual events that are currently happening, I feel like is ignorant, for lack of a better word. But if you have, can I say, oh, the White Army don't have conflict with the people that are around them, whether the government is involved? I'm sure that happens. People quarrel because that region has more than one person. But I feel like comparing the White Army to be as strong as the South Sudan force is an inaccurate description of the situation. So if that means are you justifying the fact that it's okay for a different country to come bomb that area?
And Scenario is going to hop off. because she has a Zoom meeting. She has a meeting right after this, so she's gonna hop off, and I don't know if she's still on. So just to let you guys know, and then you guys feel free to answer that question. And that's the thing, people have their own perspectives of these things. And unfortunately, nobody's really unified in how we are approaching this. And so, let me get, Sana, are you still on? Is Sana still on? No, she's not. Okay. So, Nathan said, thank you, Christine and Sarah, for facilitating this conversation. Also shows how much we need reliable media organizations in South Sudan. I agree with that, because there's always different voices that are kind of relaying information, and they're relaying it from their own lens, whether it's tribalist. Arnabi said, that's such a gaslighting statement that doesn't even deserve a response.
I second that. Yeah, and unfortunately, we've lost a lot of journalists in South Sudan for wanting to speak out.
Yes.
My uncle being one of those that died in 2013 because of him trying to release the information of what's going on underground. So half of the information, thank God for cameras these days and things are happening. That's how we're able to get those information. But having an actual news, you have Juba I Radio, which seems like a meme journalism, but I guess that is okay because they say kind of whatever to whichever side. But an actual journalist that could be in the front lines and trying to report this don't technically even survive to make their stories to be heard, or the actual stories of those people. But so I feel like if you come from a place of prejudice, then you would have views like Andrew. Because if you already made up your mind about how you want to view the situation, then that's fine. I condoned.
Apew said, I condone what happened to the innocent civilians in Nazir and the surrounding area. However, we should not also paint a good picture about what the white army is either. They cause so much havoc. And hey, I mean, if you guys are willing to hop on, please hop on. But I think everybody's perspective is, necessary for us to come to truth and reconciliation. We're not gonna come to a place of understanding if we hide our truths or our beliefs. And so I think it's important for all of us to share our perspective. So we appreciate you, Appeal, and Andrew. I think it's important for us to just get it out there.
Yeah, and I don't think Yamal was trying to paint a picture of them in a good light. I feel like she's just painting the picture of what they stand for and then putting them in the same sentence as Jay Moshar, make it seem like their affiliation is much stronger. They have their own stance and agenda. They're separate from what is IO and IG is. So that's what Yamal was trying to get to a price. I don't think anybody's trying to say they're these perfect role model citizens. They're just civilians that decided to take justice into their own hands. And I don't think anybody's trying to paint as if they're the what the example of South Sudan needs to be. They're just people who decided to protect themselves. That's just a fact of the matter.
And Yamal, it looks like you hopped back on. We'll give you an opportunity to kind of, if you want to clarify your statements since you're on stage. But also, I know you guys are busy. You guys have a live, it's a Sunday. We want you to enjoy your Sunday. So we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap up the conversation. Please feel free to leave your comments on here and we'll read it out there. But is there anything else you wanted to add on, Christine, if I missed anything?
No, they just asked for Scenario's social handles, but we'll go ahead and share yours as well as where people can.
Yeah, I just added her social. That's her social. That's Scenario's social Instagram.
And anything you want to promote, anything that you have going on as well, you can go ahead and have it for.
Yeah, you left out that you're an influencer, a beauty influencer. Let them know how they could find you. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know we're wrapping up, but I did wanted to respond to that because I also don't want to be misquoted here. I was not, as Nyayen said, I was not trying to say that these are our heroes and whatnot. I'm just simply stating what White Army is, because there's a lot of narratives that's going on that they are not, right? So that's what I'm coming with. I do not support everything that did happen in Nasser, including like the attack of the peacekeeper that went there, when they were trying to rescue the General Major Duck, right? So I do not support that whatsoever, right? So, but it's also, we have to ask the question: why did they kept him alive, right? If they had intention of killing him in front of the peacekeeper, that didn't make any sense. There's a lot of things that's not adding up. I was not in the battlefield, but I do have enough information to know what White Army is, and the pictures that we are painting, they are not saint whatsoever. But what they stand for is really to just protect themselves. Like in South Sudan, for you to survive, we have like neighboring tribes where the government fails to protect all of us, right? They are not protecting the citizens of Nasser, or the Nuer citizens, or the Denka citizens, or the Murale citizens, where like everyone come and ambush each other. So for you to actually like live and stay alive, it's like you have to protect yourself, and that's what these young men are for. So it was the government that sent the SSPDF, even though we did lost a lot of soldiers in the IG, like that are SSPDF. It's the government that sent them there. So you comparing soldiers that are active duties to civilians being burned, and justifying civilians being burned because the soldier died, doesn't add up, because they agreed to the mission, they agreed to go to Nasser. The Nasser people have communicated repeatedly that we do not want SSPDF because they came and abused our rights before. We want unified forces. They were not heard. The citizens were not heard. So that's what I was really trying to clear up. And these are the facts that we have to separate from our opinion. I can have a good opinion of what White Army is, and I can also differentiate that with what the facts are. The facts are the government sent those armies that died, right? Those soldiers that died. I think someone was saying, like, you have an entire like family murdered by the White Army, but there were actually active duties. We have children and women that were that were sleeping in their villages, and they were just bombed by the government, so we can't compare those, because they're not the same thing. So I want to clear that up. And I'm not saying that they are great people, they are this and this and that, but I'm saying that they are not terrorists. So stop painting them as if they are terrorists. So that's what I was solely coming here for and to clear up. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Nyamal. And listen, we're welcome to any other people's perspectives. So if you want to hop on, please do. If you have an opposing opinion, other like that you don't agree with Nyamal or Nayan or Sana or any of us, please hop on. We're welcoming you guys to do that. This is the platform where we want all of our voices to be heard.
But for the sake of time, it's going to be
I'm also gonna hop out here shortly. I have a 10-page paper that I have.
Yeah, we're just gonna wrap up.
We're closing out the show. Yeah,
we have more to do so.
Yeah, but go ahead, Christine. If you want, can you go ahead and close out the conversation?
No, I was gonna allow her to promote her social platforms and anything that she has going on.
So you guys can find me at Sudani Doll, Sarah Nyayan on Facebook, and Sudani Doll on TikTok. Again, I'm just I'm not gonna say I didn't come here as I guess a politician. That's not what I am. I'm just a person who happens to be passionate about what's going on, and my passion shows into the reaction. And that's why I joined this here today, so that we could have these honest conversations. And I'm glad that it went the way that it did. I think it was beneficial, and I feel like there's going to be so many different conversations to have had, and we're all welcome to make those mistakes as long as we're willing to correct them. And I just want to get out of this conversation scenario. That's a scenario, you guys, wherever you guys found her, she's definitely a really good sound voice that said a lot of things, and is very, like, you could tell she did her work. So I appreciate having the opportunity to interact paths with them. But again, at the end of the day, in order for us to have unity, the truth has to be discussed. And that's my only basis of it. the horrible sides of that's affecting our country on a tribal level, on a governmental level, that has to be addressed. And before we can have peace, everybody's voices and the horrible history that we're gonna face and have faced have to be stated clearly and correctly. And so I appreciate you guys. It's very bold of you guys and brave of you guys to even broker this conversation. And I appreciate coming in. I wasn't sure what to expect because, again, I don't know you guys personally. So I wasn't sure what to expect from this conversation. And, you know, I just say moving on forward, if there's any conversations that you guys would like me to be a part of, you guys share ideas, definitely reach out. I don't think I'm always pro South Sudanese people doing what they have to do. So in support of that, I'm open to pick brains with, and I definitely feel like you guys just have to continue to want to make this a better platform because I think it is important to have that and to everybody feel like they're heard. And I know that's like the big thing I wanted to get across. A lot of people in my inbox like, oh, we don't feel like, I don't think they're about this. So I was all like, even people that are like, you got invited, are you going to do it? What is the agenda behind it? And, I was like, I'm going to find out for myself. I don't shy away from problems because I genuinely think there's always a solution to everything. But my reason for even coming and saying anything to you is to acknowledge that your voice does matter and how you use it matters. And if I didn't care, if I didn't think the platform was important, I could have left. I'm a big pro on, if I don't like the shit, I will keep scrolling. But if it's important to me, I'll respond. And so I appreciate this conversation today, and thanks for having me. And hopefully we can continue to have these healthy, more educated conversations often online. And I encourage all of us in diaspora, please stop promoting the fact that to get up and go fight. It's easier to say that we have our lights on. And look at a scenario. She didn't even have electricity, but she came very well educated, and she able to make that mind, who's very much closer to the turmoil over there than we are. So for her to have that perspective, it's important to do your research, and we are the future. Our kids are going to be the future. And so it is important to fight for those right voices. So
Thank you so
that's
much,
what I have to
Nayan.
say.
We really appreciate your
Yeah.
voice. Obviously, like you said, we don't know each other personally, but we were able to come to one platform and speak our truths in a respectful manner. And I think, you gave us, I'm not gonna lie, your first video, we felt like, oh, it's kind of harsh,
I
like,
was in my feelings, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. I told you I was all like,
right. We're like, oh, I don't know. But speaking to you today, it really is like beautiful for us to come to an understanding, even if we don't agree on certain things. At least I can give you the credit for saying, hey, I love you guys, so this is why I'm telling you this, because if I didn't love you, then I wouldn't tell you anything. And so I think that's beautiful. It speaks to us being able to come together as one people. And also, like you said,
as well. I think that was big because I think that it helped bring attention to the issue. We were able to have this in-depth conversation. I learned so much from Scenario and from you as well. So I think ultimately it was able to be used for something good. So I think that's a win-win for all of us at the end of the day. But
yeah, and then also people get into your ear, like you said, people may have gotten in your ear and said, like, what's their agenda? I know some people were like, be careful because she's gonna try to run over you guys, run over your platform. She's trying, like people, and it's like, no, let's see, like, let's give each other the benefit of the doubt as people. And I think this is a good example of us, like, let's just have a conversation.
We don't know everything, and we're not politicians, and we're like making it up as we go. So the people that we're creating it for say like we don't like this, or we have to like listen to it. We can't just be like, oh, okay, well, whatever. That's why it's like you coming on here. I think it just shows solidarity, and it's a great example for like the community as a whole on how to like move forward, especially
maybe we can get Young and Silver to get on a live and discuss their shit out.
Well, we'll see one day, maybe.
Right. And if you say that there's a perspective that's missing, we have to address that, because the whole point of the platform is for us to be like a voice for South Sudanese, particularly in the diaspora, but for everybody, all 64 tribes. So I think it's okay for us to like take criticism and try to apply it as best as we can. We're never going to be perfect. We are human beings. We're not robots. We're not politicians or journalists, but we're just people in the diaspora who want to share our perspectives. And we appreciate you coming on here and, you know, talking it out with us. We really, really do. And thank you to Scenario. She's not here right now, but we're really grateful for her voice.
Yeah. Future conversations or topics or anything like that, we'll definitely reach out to you. And if you have any more people you could recommend to us that have a voice, we would love to reach out to them directly, because I think that's also an issue with us sourcing people as well. So
I definitely would connect with Yamal. She does like a lot of research. She has a book out that discusses her own personal journey from where she comes from. And I feel like a lot of things with the diaspora, some people were not even born in South Sudan. So the disconnect there is also very much a reality for some people. It's like, how do I fight for a home that I technically don't even know, you know? And that's like a bigger fish to fry. And maybe that comes from a distance, like, oh, okay, I don't really know. I've never been there. I don't, you know, but it's just like, regardless if you've been there, we can see that what's going on is bad. So, but also like and even the biggest reader, Christine, because I, prior to that, I saw your interview where it's like, they were asking you about how you guys correct each other, and you talked very much about how your audience is able to correct you, and that's also one of the reasons like I stated that. And I definitely was in a heated and passionate moment, but I literally have no hate about. I'm super lighthearted. I can get pissed one minute and I'm cool the next, but I'm really big on understanding people, and as long as like I can get your intention, then that, I think if I knew you, then I would have not probably perceived it the way that it came off, you know. And I feel like I don't think you have a hateful, and anybody who made you guys feel like I would come in here and be rah rah. I'm not. You know, I'm just all about facts and truth. Yeah. So
yeah. No, but no, we appreciate you. Andrew said, I mean, hold on, my thing is being covered. It said, I mean, Nayan, you are doing an outstanding job. Don't shy away.
I appreciate it, and thank you for your harsh statements. And I don't mean harsh in like a negative way. Like, it's a truth reality of how some people really feel too. So that is important to be heard, so those can be responded to. So I appreciate your comments. While you were very interactive today, and I think that made things a bit easier. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
You too. We're gonna let you go.
Gonna try to put my kids down for a nap so I can do my homework.
No, I feel you. Thank you so much with everything that you've got going on. You enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And
thank you. You too, Christine and Sarah. I appreciate it. You guys have a good day, okay?
Absolutely. Bye. Take care.
Now, Sarah.
Yes.
First of all, thank you to everyone who stayed. I think we had up to 40 viewers. So thank you so much for everyone who stayed throughout the whole live and who commented. And hopefully next time you guys will feel more emboldened to join the live. But you do have to cam up. So I think this is a good way for us to dissect.
Yeah, thank you, Nyamel, as well, because you were actually our first person that was not a panelist to hop on a show as an audience member. So big shout out to you. Thank you, Pretty Ace. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew, for your dialogue with us today.
I know we're in a tough zone today.
Oh yeah, we were. And if you don't understand the reason for this episode, watch our previous episode. That's pretty much kind of like what we were piggybacking off of. And last message from Gatluap, he said, you should be bringing people who know the history of South Sudan, especially during the liberation struggles going back decades. That's the whole current problem emanating from, I'm sorry, it's cut off.
Yeah. I think our biggest issue is sourcing people. So that's why we're trying to do this live route, so that we can get people voices from back home in South Sudan or all over, and not just in Dallas. So if you do have someone you could recommend, please, it would help us. We're not above reaching out to people. It's just knowing like who to reach out to, right? Like who would be a good resource. We built a team now, so we have more people working with us who can help us out. But we do need to do a better job with, I guess, getting more voices. And that's something that we're definitely going to try to implement moving forward. But if y'all can like the live while y'all are still here, that will help us out so much. And Sarah, I will let you close this out. I don't know how to end
Yeah, so honestly, we just wanted to have this conversation to where do we even start? Because the whole topic is about how the South Sudanese diaspora, particularly the voices that have platforms, or even if you have a voice, how we can engage in dialogue when it comes to sensitive topics, including genocide or war or tribalism. How we can engage in these conversations with truth and clarity, and also not creating division. And so we wanted to kind of bring in some people that were kind of had some disagreements with how we approached our last episode, but also just to do better as a whole diaspora, because I think all of us could do better as far as how we engage in dialogue with each other. And so that was the whole purpose of the show. We were so happy to have everyone on here. I think it was really good, and we wouldn't be us without you guys. So if you want to be a part of Ladies of Sosa, or be a part of the panel, please email ladiesofosa@gmail.com, message us on our social media platforms. Go ahead, Christine, if I'm missing anything.
No, that's it.
Okay. Pew said, I really hope that we can talk more facts and statistics about issues in South Sudan and let people opinions and perspectives to bring viable solutions. I mean, so that's the thing. What is facts? I mean, what is opinions? Like, everybody has their own facts that they're bringing to the table, and there's not a lot of journalism and free access to information as regards to South Sudan and the issues that are happening there. Here,
to be clear, we are not journalists, and we do not want that to be misconstrued. Like, we have a podcast where we try to amplify the voices of South Sudanese and diaspora as well as back home, but we are not journalists. But we do need to do a better job of presenting factual information when we do talk about topics regarding South Sudan, like politics and things like that. That's where we can better improve. But I will let the journalists who study that and like on that craft handle that lane. That's not our lane, and we don't.
Christine says she don't want no more smoke.
No more. So thank you so much. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you. But I mean, I agree. Thank you, Janet. We love and miss you. And no, thank you. If I think maybe we can figure out like how we can bring more statistics. We need more people that are journalists. We need more people that are fact checkers, like, doing this information so that we know like how to speak strongly. Because I think that's one reason why sometimes we do tiptoe, because we don't know like exactly, like there's always different narratives and we're not on the ground. So how could we, take a strong stance when we're not on the ground, and we can make things worse by picking saying things that may not be accurate, or so yeah, we're still learning. But thank you to Scenario as well for teaching us about just speaking the truth and being not afraid to do that, because I think I learned a lot about that as well, not being afraid to speak the truth. But thank you,
everybody. Thank you for
we hope you have a beautiful Sunday. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Ladies of Sosa. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, leave your comments. Whether you agree, disagree with me or Christine or anyone on the panel, we are welcome to dialogue. But we love you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Now, how do you end it?
I forgot how to end it. Oh, thank you. Great. Bye. Thank you guys. Bye. End stream. Okay.